The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Optimizing and De-risking Market Strategies. This is the latest in our 2018 series of webinars on market development. So let me do some introductions. Most of you know us by now, so bear with me for just a minute. My name is Kathleen Ojo. I'm your moderator today, as well as the Commercial Programs Lead here at Esri. And leading our session today is Helen Thompson, our Commercial Industry Manager, who I haven't seen in weeks, actually. Helen's been on the road attending various events and conducting small workshops where she helps both beginning and practiced users of ArcGIS sharpen their skills and make the most of their investments in GIS technology. So Helen, I don't know if you want to comment on some of the stuff you've been doing these last couple weeks and the value you're bringing to customers.
Well, welcome everybody. It's been a fantastic 3 weeks. This week I've just come back from RealCom up in Boston, flew back literally overnight, and met a lot of people using our software for space planning and really helped refine some of those people's strategies. The week before in Chicago with our amazing partners at the CCM Institute, and held a couple of doctors' workshops there. And then the week before, we were talking about the role of location strategy and location intelligence in the customer experience. And that's a new audience that doesn't know so much about the power of spatial analysis and the way that we can use this type of analysis. So a lot of traveling, a lot of amazing conversations, and this is what excites me, to hear people who are saying, we come to your webinars, we see your blogs, we put this into action. So credit to those of you that attend and use this.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's good to hear that the webinars are really kicking off deeper conversations about the use of our technology with our customers. So happy to hear from you all and see you all on the road. But let's get into today's session. Just a few logistical points. The webinar is being recorded, and we do try and post the recording on LinkedIn within 10 days. Make sure you join one of our industry-specific special interest groups so you don't miss the recording or any of the other content or announcements that we post. We're going to host questions at the end of the webinar. Please type them into the question window in your GoToWebinar dashboard. If we can't answer your questions during the course of the webinar just due to time, we can follow up with you afterwards to have a discussion. There's also a link here to our Market Development Webinar Series page where you can catch up on any sessions you've missed, as well as a link to an ongoing survey we're conducting. And this survey asks about the types of market analysis you need to support your business goals. We're really trying to gather more information from those of you that interact with us regularly, just to figure out what we can do to better help you and better understand your workflows and the kind of solutions you need so we can tailor our content more to you. We will send out an email immediately following this webinar with these links as well, just in case you miss them. Your feedback is very important to us. So let's jump straight into our first poll. Again, in the spirit of getting to know all of you and where you're from and kind of tailoring our discussion towards you, we want to know what industry you're from. If you can go ahead and select from the options below, or other if you are from another industry that we haven't captured here. Greatly appreciate your feedback here on this. We'll let this run for just a few more seconds. All right, we still have a few responses rolling in. Leave this open for a couple more seconds. All right, I'm going to close that out. We'll take a look at our results. Wow, we're really heavy into real estate today. Quite a few of you, 65%.
2/3.
2/3.
Yeah.
Way to represent.
Yeah.
about a quarter of you from other industries, though not captured here, which is wonderful. I think the message is spreading, and the workflows we show here really can be used across a wide variety of business practices. So let's go ahead and hide that. And now I'm going to hand it over to Helen, who's going to go through the agenda and start on our content for today. Helen?
All right, thanks, Kathleen. We're gonna fly through lots of different things again. If you've attended these, you know one of the things I say is, you know, take some screenshots, watch the recordings, play them back as you need. But really, there are four key topics in this idea of minimizing risk. What I really want to think about and introduce the concept of how do you understand trade areas. There's lots of ways to delineate them. There's some great rule of thumbs I want to sort of just generally introduce you to. And then look at market and competitive analysis. Use things like the nearby report and some of the other capabilities that we've got to start to be able to say, I can go into the market and not knowing anything about where my customers might be targeting their stores, start to understand maybe a little more about what their strategy might be, and whether that's a bank, whether you're retail, whether you're in healthcare provisioning, hospitality, multifamily, whatever it might be, you can use the same type of strategies. I'm going to look at the site suitability and suitability analysis capabilities in Business Analyst Web, and then we're going to do some benchmark reports, and all in about 40 minutes. So when I think about how to go into marketplace, there are really three strategies that I see most of the customers I work with and my colleagues at Esri working with our customers. They're focused on really the idea that they can maximize the revenue from a target demographic or a customer segment. If money's no option, you can put down as many sites and facilities as you want. You can cannibalize your own sales. You can try and dominate the market. And that might be a strategy that you can adopt. It's very hard to do today. You know, many retailers went into markets not knowing whether they would be able to achieve the growth and the market opportunities they wanted. They sort of had the view that if the demand's there and the product's right, we can achieve that. But unless you're a household recognized brand that really fits at the top of consumer respect, it's a very difficult strategy. Most companies go through an idea of, I'm going to maximize the coverage based on access to customers and their dollars. I'm going to find where the opportunity is. I'm going to find where the competition is currently underperforming, or where the white or greenfield space is. And I'm going to go and place my strategy based on being able to pick up new opportunity. Well, that's quite risky, because unless you understand what the competitive strategy is, you're always playing catch up, right? You're reacting to somebody else's strategy and you don't have your own. And the third one is sort of in between, right? Is to dominate the areas that you can succeed, to minimize the competitive opportunity and pressure, and to really then tailor your business strategy associated with what you do best. And to highlight this, I just wanted to give you this sort of an understanding of how I think about territories and marketplaces and trade areas. So one of the great ways to think about it, and one of my favorite people in the retail real estate space, Gary Rolston, and I discuss this all the time. If you want to know where trade areas are and the number of trade areas in any study area or market you're analyzing, understand where Walmart is. Walmart are incredibly well placed in their store locations, in their understanding of the marketplace, and their ability to maximize the returns from the business opportunities in each one of their neighborhoods. And getting something like this, a store data set from Walmart, we can use to really start to understand analysis in different ways. So all of those Walmart locations that I just showed in the presentation, I've brought into ArcGIS Online. And I've created this unique trade area map. And you might be wondering how I did it. Well, one of the basic things is that we can do drive time analysis between each one of the locations. So any of my Walmarts in this area, I can say, start at one Walmart and drive all the way around all the other Walmarts. The reason this is important and a great thing is that we can come and look at how many Walmarts are in the area, what's the total driving distance, and also what's the average distance between them. And in this example, in the Inland Empire region, Walmarts are about 11 miles apart. Now, they're obviously clustered more densely in urban areas than they are in suburban or rural areas, right? But you can see that using a rule of thumb idea of about 15 miles, I can pretty much cover all of the areas. So what I did is I basically said, what I want to do is I'm going to run 15-mile drive distance around every single Walmart using one of our options in the drive time analysis, which is split. And what it does is it creates a unique area which defines all of the places which are nearer that Walmart than any other Walmart. So you can see in Riverside that there's 5 Walmarts around it, but there are none right in the center of this freeway, the 91 and the 60 and the 215. So there might be a good place to set up an alternative location. You can see similar things here where we've got convergence of these trade areas where there's no Walmart in that location. So maybe, you know, that's the places that Target are targeting, or maybe there's other competitors in that space. But this is a really great way to start to understand how to build trade areas which are based on these rule of thumbs. I can take that map and I can bring it into Business Analyst. So it's something that I can just add by clicking on the Add Data in Business Analyst Web, click on the web map and add it into the background. So here are the different trade areas, and what I want to do is to perform some analysis. So looking at Redlands here, I can run my infographics. And one of the common infographics that I use is the tapestry profile. It's something that I built as part of the market development webinar series, and so many of you wanted to see it in the product that we actually added it in the June release. I've also got a range of others that I look at. So one of the things that I do is I generally go in and look at all of the key demographics, so people's life modes, not the individual tapestry segment. There's a lot of use of the dominant tapestry segments, but they tend to be much more about the most common and not really about the dominant segment itself. I'm also looking at jobs. I know in this area there's a lot of people employed in healthcare. There's suburban periphery, there's a lot of urban areas. So this is one of the reasons why the trade area for Walmart stretches out into Yucaipa, where I live. And there's no Walmart between Yucaipa and Banning. So you can see, and Beaumont, so you can see that, again, there's potential, if the market opportunity exists, to build a new Walmart in this location. So I can use infographics to start to understand who my customers are. I can also use some of the new benchmark infographics that we built to start to do more. And if you're a CCIM, one of the things that's available to you in the Site to Do business is the Esri CCIM benchmark infographic. And what this does is it takes any area and allows you to analyze, compare it against formal geographies. So my functional geography, which is the Walmart area for Redlands, I can compare it with other counties, Riverside versus San Bernardino, and see how my areas match up against them. So we can start to see that, you know, there's fewer people earning 75,000, 50 to 75,000 in the Redlands area, but there's more people earning over 100,000, and there's a lot more people earning 200,000 or more in this marketplace. So one of the things that infographics gives me is the ability to start to very quickly summarize, compare, and analyze the data. Right? I can take these trade areas that I've generated, these unique trade areas, and view them in many, many different ways as charts and tables, and export these reports. And I can build them into a whole range of understanding about who are the people that live there. But I also need to do more than that, right? So one of the things that we've looked at is to move beyond sort of where's Walmart, but to start to think about competition. So in this area that I did some analysis on last year, Aldi were coming into the marketplace. There's a whole range of competition for the grocery dollars. This is a market area of 500 square miles, over 1 million people, and about $1.7 billion of grocery spend. There's more than 30 grocers in this marketplace. There's common brands like Vons and Albertsons, new market entrants like Aldi, who built a distribution center right down here in Moreno Valley to really be able to come in and launch big into this marketplace. So one of the things that I did is use that drive time analysis to create these unique marketplaces to start to understand each one of these grocers. There are 2 Trader Joe's, and this is their marketplace, assuming that each one of the Trader Joe's are optimally positioned in terms of distance. And I'll come back to that as we move through these different grocers. Stater Brothers, far more of them, very tightly packed. Albertsons and Vons, brands in the common chain, a little more distributed. Food for Less tend to be both clustered and dispersed, right? They're in areas which are very much focused on their target audience, as is Aldi. And when I first started this, there were only four Aldis in the market. Today, there's 8, and they've been able to expand very, very rapidly. And what I did is I used that, how far apart is the average trade area, use the drive times to create those common zones that I just showed you, and then use the analysis to look at how many customers they reach and how much penetration they have on the grocery dollars in that area. And these are the statistics which are pretty amazing. You know, Trader Joe's are 11 minutes apart, which is less than Food for Less, Aldi, and Albertsons. But they only cover, with those 2 stores, 30% of all of the customers, but 40% of the dollars. So you get confirmation that a Trader Joe's strategy is to go after high-income individuals in very tightly focused markets. People maybe don't want to drive as far to Trader Joe's, or maybe it's because the market opportunity isn't there as you get further and further away, because there's many alternatives. Contrast that with Food for Less. They cover 88% of all of the customers, people that live in this trade area, 95% of the dollars, and each store covers about 11% of both the dollars and the people. but they aren't covering 120,000 customers. But really amazingly, those 4 Albertsons don't cover 600,000 of the million people that live in this marketplace. So they have 60% of all of the dollars, but there's a lot of people that could be going to Albertsons compared to other locations. And Aldi, with its 5 original stores, is the most efficient actually at covering the customers per store, right? So 15% of the market is as good as Trader Joe's. They cover 17%, which is better than everybody else except for Trader Joe's. And they've got a small number of people that they aren't reaching. So it's a pretty amazing strategy in terms of looking at who accesses what amount of space. And what I want to do is sort of ask you if one of the things that you do when you start sort of thinking about sites and locations and where you're expanding to or building or partnering on development, how much work do you do to analyze the competition in the marketplace?
So you'll see that poll up on your screen right now. Do you assess markets and competitive pressure for yourselves only, for clients and yourself, for clients only, or you don't assess markets and competitors? We'll leave that open for a few more seconds. Looks like a lot of responses to this one. We have a passionate crowd.
I'm glad. So there's some good news, bad news coming in this poll. I'm not sure which way to deliver it, but let's leave it right. Okay.
We'll go ahead and share out those results. So it looks like most people, almost half of people, 43%, analyze and assess markets and competitive pressure for clients and for their own benefit. But many do it only for their clients. And then it's pretty split, 15% do that sort of analysis only for themselves, or they don't assess their markets and competitors, which is very interesting.
Yeah. So the ones that aren't doing market assessment and this type of work, I think are really missing out to those that do it. The techniques that I just showed you are really simple, right? It's a matter of adding your stores to ArcGIS Online, running the plan routes functionality, getting the average statistic of that, doing a drive time, combining them together, and you're done. This is something that is really very, very simple to do. Everybody on this call can do it or learn how to do it. So let's hide that and move on with other part to this. Earlier in the year, I talked a lot about customer preferences, and we had at that time a restaurant example. And this is very similar to grocery, right? We have loyalties to brand. In the Atlanta example, we saw how much there are clusters of relationships associated with brands. You can see the red area associated with restaurant 2, restaurant 3 in blue, and if you can find a purple dot on there for restaurant 4, good luck to you, because in this marketplace, people really don't have the loyalty to that brand. So thinking about that, a real key thing is to look at, who are the customers? What do they look like? How do they behave? And using infographics, what I was able to do is start to segment these markets, right? Here's Trader Joe's. They've got relatively high income. They're all across these different life modes. There's a lot of ethnic enclaves. I bet most of you that know our segmentation system will be thinking laptops and lattes, laptops and lattes. Well, not really in the Inland Empire. You know, we're very much part of this affluent estates, includes group like Top Tier and Professional Pride, the Boombergs. Boombergs are also supported by just how many of the people live in this urban periphery, right? So this is a really good way to start to understand it. Midtown singles, you know, 12% of all the people that go there, they're going there because it's convenient. They like the meals they produce. They like the products that's associated with the Trader Joe's brand. Compare that with Stater Brothers, dominated by ethnic enclaves, right? Very much in the urban periphery. They're hyper local markets. They're 4 miles apart on average, right? This is very much the idea that every one of their marketplaces, every one of their stores is tailored to the local demographics around them. Vons, Albertsons, slightly different to Stater Brothers, as is Food for Less, but Food for Less is definitely going after that sort of value chain, a similar ethnicity and group to Stater Brothers. And then Aldi, new market entrance, is also the first place where we really start to see the next wave appear. Next wave is full of this international marketplace. If you've been to Aldi, if you know the brand, it's a place with Italian sausages and German food and all these other sort of European influence, people with accents like myself and others. I go there because there are things that I just love, Australian and British cheeses, all this European fare. But it's also very much a value brand with high quality products. And many of their products will stand shoulder to shoulder with all of these other brands. And what this shows is just how well Aldi have done to identify a niche that doesn't exist in any of those other local grocers. So let's compare some of this now. So look at the total population reach. So our store trade areas, these drive distance analysis that extend beyond my study area. That's why the sum is more than 1 million people. But you can see how similar the household income is. But there's some reasonably significant, in percentage terms, variation in disposable income. But really where we start to see the differentiation is in home value. So we start to see that home value is a good proxy to start to understand how these different brands compare. And one of the reasons why these different groups have different amounts of disposable income is often with higher home values and relatively constant household income, people are spending more and more of their income servicing their mortgage. So one of the great indicators and variables that I use is the percent of salary that is used to service the mortgage. It's one of our common variables. It's an incredible insight that allows you to build an understanding of people's income profiles and the value of their homes, but actually then think about whether these people are accumulating net worth. But look how closely Aldi and Food for Less match each other. 54,000 between both of them, about 46,000 in terms of disposable income, 300,000 for medium home price, 63,000 for net worth. You know, a little bigger in average household size, but almost the same again in degrees of higher in terms of educational attainment. And this sort of 2% difference also explains that idea of this next wave, right? This is the people that are also coming into the San Bernardino and Riverside counties, people with degrees, people who are working in high tech, in healthcare, and all these areas. So there's some really interesting variables and key insights that we can get from doing this type of analysis. And if you wondered how I built all of this, I used Excel, and I just enriched all of my areas from Excel. And if you're not in that high tech, you can just go copy the variables from each one of these reports, save the image, print them as a PDF, and put them into an Excel spreadsheet. So again, easy things that everybody can do. So here's the bonus for attending the webinar. If you're a business analyst web user and you want to share with us at the end of this webinar, send Kathleen or I, or both of us, an email with your business analyst or your site to do business login, the public login that you use. I will give you access to my shared infographics. So this is a library where you can bring together these sort of quite powerful visualizations and understanding of all of these demographics. Prototyping and building these was about 200 hours of my time to make a lot of these work and make them really functional and easy and scalable. And anybody that emails us can get access to that, and we'll send you a follow-up email to explain how to do it. All right, let's go back now and start to do some things interactively. So I talked about these oldies that are opening up in the marketplace. I know how far they are apart, which is on average about 7.5 miles. So one of the things that I did is I generated in Business Analyst a set of drive distances based on those criteria. And in Business Analyst, one of the things that happens is that when you import a set of points, you can bring them in and automatically run these drive times. So here are my point locations that I've imported. I got the locations from one of our partners, but you could scrape a website and bring them in if you wanted to do it that way. Automatically generate the rings or the drive times, whatever it is around them. I'd encourage you to do drive distance because we're looking at market areas and competition. And I can start to do analysis on these. So again, do the same thing, look at the infographics, understand who all these different groups are for each one of these trade areas. Now that's great. It's laborious doing them one by one by one. And so what I want to do is really start to understand these in a different way. And we've gone through and created some capabilities which are really about doing comparison analysis. So comparison analysis lets me look at all the marketplace, each individual site in a different way. So rather than having these infographics and interactive things, what I want to do for this target market is go to my reports tab and look at comparison reports and the new comparison reports. And what I can do is start to add sites. So I can say, here are all the sites on the map, my oldie locations, click on OK, and you can see each site area for each one of these 8 sites. I've got the information associated with them. It's added my sites. I've done some previous work with outlet shoppers. So you can build a list of characteristics you want to look at, or you can use Esri's standard ones. And as I discussed, income is a big driver of the success of these different stores. So here now is a standard comparison benchmark report that lets me look at how well each one of these stores are doing. And what I can do is I can take any location and say, well, this is my analog store. This is the best one in the marketplace. This is what I want my site or a new market site, a new potential location to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically say, compare this against it. Let me say no to that. I can make this one the benchmark. All right. So now here are the benchmarks set up for this, and I'm going to do it in a different color. I like to use the red to blue, hot and cold. Right. Anything in red, I want to be wary of. So what I can start to see is, if you look at Foothills Boulevard here, it's lower, considerably lower than my site at Day Street. Right. So each one of these will tell you, the degree to which it's good or bad. And I can set these criteria, so I can change the color if I want, or I can edit the ranges. So what it allows me to do is to start to shift these colors up and down. So now I can see just how well these are doing. Anything in at this top end, I'm going to make a dark green and say that these are great sites. So it's a really powerful way to start to see all the way across the board how these are performing. So here's my benchmark, which is Day Street, and look at Summit Avenue. It's got twice the per capita income. Same thing with a medium household income. It's got 2.5 times the average household income, right? So all these different things are telling me just how good that Summit Avenue site is compared to my benchmark. One of the things that we can also do is add sites and standard geographies, right? So I can take my nearby geographies, add the zip code to it, add the state, right, or the US as my comparisons. And now I'm able to see all of these things lined up. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap over the view so I can start to see my variables, and here are all my different sites side by side, and I can compare them against all of these different areas that I'm interested in, right? So there's a lot of zip codes as part of this. I don't expect anybody to understand it in this view. So the great thing is export it to Excel, right? Excel's your friend. Dump it out. It's something that you can come back and look at later. So this hopefully is all making sense in terms of understanding what we can do with the data and how we can manage all these different locations. Often one of the things that I want to do is compare this with a new expansion location. So I know these are existing stores. I've got a site that I want to analyze, and that site is a potential location in the marketplace. So could I take that site and pitch it to Aldi and show them how good it is compared with everybody else, right? So here it is using the same type of drive time analysis. And what I want to do now is just run these comparisons. And as soon as you run comparisons, it say, do you want to add this site to the standard report? I'm going to click yes. And by magic, I'm actually going to remove some of these. This new site is added at the bottom of our report. All right. So all the way down the bottom is our potential site. And one of the things that I can do is just drag it and move it up to where I want it to be, and put it right up near the top of other locations. You can see just how many zip codes we cover on all these other parts associated with it. So we're competing in Redlands and Rialto and all of these different zip codes. If you don't want them in, of course, you can just remove one of these. So if I don't want to understand Beaumont, I can just delete it. All right, it's very simple to compile your list of sites and your list of locations. And what you can see about our new site is that it's blue. It's pretty good, but it's not exceptional compared to all of the other locations. Right? It's Some places it's better, some places it's worse. What I can do with this is I can actually make this now the benchmark and say, well, how well does that site perform against everything else? So it's better than Day Street and Hospitality Lanes, better than Foothills, and it's sort of better than Highland, but it's not as good as these 4 other sites. So immediately I get an understanding of just how well this site would perform compared with its neighbors. If I'm just doing the numbers associated with that, that's great, but I need to also think about, you know, where are some of the competition, what's causing this? So another great little tool that you can use is some of our other analysis. So let's go back in here to remember our Walmart locations. I could understand, you know, where for any area what the competition is, and we've built a new functionality into the June release, which is called nearby reports. And what I did is I basically created a nearby report to look at all the competition in a marketplace. So in this case, I'm looking at the Redlands Walmart to see how many grocers are in the marketplace. And this is an interactive report that I can just click around and see the information associated with it. So as I hover over, I can see which store I'm looking at. We can see that this store here in Hospitality Lane is right on the very edge of that competitive trade area for our Walmart. So how did I create that? It's very simple, and in the last sort of 3 minutes, I'll show you how to build one. So here's my template that I was just using. I'm going to click Add here to add a new floating panel. Many of you probably work with the standard grid layout in Business Analyst infographics. I really love the floating blank template. So what I'm going to do is add a nearby. I can search for a layer in ArcGIS Online. I'm going to click only those in my map. I've used folders in ArcGIS Online to organize my data. It's in the market development area. So here are my different stores that I've got available to me that I could add. And I simply just go and click on one of these and add it. So if we turn off the map filter, you'll see that I've got more locations than just in this area. So let's add Food for Less stores. All right, now I can say which attributes I want to see. So I'm interested in the address, the city. Let's add, I've got information like the store hours. I've got the zip code. All right, so we'll add state and zip, and we'll add the store hours. I'm not interested in directionality. Click next. And at the bottom here is one of the really important things. I can click to add it to the map, and now it'll automatically become an interactive panel in the map. I'm going to move this down here, right? And you see those little blue lines are showing that it's all aligned. I'm going to make it a little less wide, and I'm just going to edit the map quickly and look at this add other layers, and you'll see now here's my Food for Less stores. I'm just going to click on this, change the symbology to standard set of symbology, and I'm going to choose a big yellow pin for Food for Less. Let's make it 26 like all the others. Click apply, say save. Here's my grocery store analysis. Say yep to all that. Then I'm just, when this is saved, it's going to be in my library. And if you send me your BA BA login, I will share this today. So all of you have got an example. So I'm going to go back to my map, click on infographics, and hopefully all of those changes that I just made will be in the infographics. So I don't really know why I'm saying hopefully, because I know that all of the changes I just made will be in there. And the other great thing about this is that you can see now, here's the store, the yellow symbology, and it's all completely interactive as part of that. And the other nice thing that I can do, I talked about the distance to these stores. So this one is 7 miles away. One of the things I can do is just run a filter and say that I'm not interested in anything over, let's say, 6 miles away, and it automatically filters down those tables. So these are the 3 sites less than 6 miles away from the center of Walmart that might be taking Walmart store grocery dollars. So if you've all stuck with me so far, I know there's been a lot, and it was great fun putting this together on the road. Many of you that I saw would have had a little preview to this. So we've done the comparison analysis, right, to look at our market potential, to see the sites which are good and bad, to automatically add in areas. We've been able to look at other things associated with that, and we can do site suitability analysis in exactly the same way. So I can take all of these and I can go and score them. So let's just jump back into this window, go to maps, and what I want to do now is I want to run site suitability, and I promise this is the last thing that I'll do, because you probably brains are about to go pop. So I've just gone in, create maps from data, site suitability, and I'm going to just say, let's start with all the features on the map. So my new site and all of the existing oldie locations. I'm going to click next to this. I'm going to look at my criteria. I've created a saved list, and this one's called grocery analysis with a whole bunch of criteria that I'm interested in. I'm going to use that criteria for now. As an example, you can build your own criteria, and we've gone through that in previous webinars. And now immediately I can start to see which stores are best. So that Summit Avenue that we looked at 7.5 miles is the best location. My potential site, from our comparison analysis, it scored about 4, and that's confirmed with this analysis. It ranks at 3. And it's very close to Yucaipa Boulevard. So it's in the same area, and it's really ranked quite closely with Yucaipa Boulevard. So maybe one of the things I want to do is sort of adjust some of the criteria. So maybe what's more important to me is say, house price index, right? That doesn't really bump it up. Maybe it's other things like the household size that I want to move this up, and you can see that actually adjusting for house size moves my site down, right? So one of the things about this is that the Summit Avenue is always against these criteria the best location, but I can use these criteria to weight all these different stores and all of these different ways that I want to assess a market. All right, so I hope that this has all been really helpful in terms of understanding how to do market assessment, benchmarking reports, all those other things. The reason we want you to do this is because if you're going to de-risk your business strategy, you need a clear understanding of what you want to do, right? And any coherent strategy is underpinned by what you want to do and how you're going to get there. So it's not simply a case of saying, I'm going to compare all these sites. It's actually saying, I'm going to score them against each other using SMART goals, right? So can you really open in this place? Is it really worth it? Can I really capture those dollars in that place? Is this really going to be a good investment to people? Start to think about TALs and SWOT analysis, right? Who are the people in the marketplace that are likely to capture those dollars? In this retail grocery example, you know, what's the realistic opportunity or potential for a site 7 miles away from Walmart to capture the Walmart shopping dollars, right? It's probably high if there's no other Walmart in the marketplace. But if there's one 3 miles down the road, another one 7 miles away, then you need to think about that 3 mile away Walmart being the competition. You know, really sort of communicate and share that strategy. Go talk to other people about, does this make sense? This is what I'm seeing. Is this the best explanation of the answers and the feedback and the data that I'm getting? And constantly measure your progress, right? When you add new data to the analysis, when you think of things in different ways, you'll get new insight, right? You might want to move that potential site nearer to the freeway. That might considerably impact the opportunity, because being nearer the freeway has more people that can come to it. It might access new neighborhoods with higher dollar and higher incomes. So have an assessment of what does it mean to go after a different site. You might want to, you know, understand the financial implications of that. So here are some things for you to explore. I wrote a blog on the infographics that I'm sharing and all the sort of features behind them to help you build your own. Tapestry is a huge part of this. Go have a look at the summary data, how individual segments and life modes compare. There's a great ebook which explains a lot of this from an understanding your customer perspective. If you're interested in trying something different beyond Business Analyst and ArcGIS, where you can really start to drill down into even more of this understanding of the people behind it, go have a look at Insights for ArcGIS, an incredible product that I featured a lot recently. And then there's a nice Market Explorer app, which really has opportunity for you to explore a lot more about the data behind all of this. So we're going to have one more poll, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A.
All right, let me launch that last poll. And this is for those of you who said in the last poll that you do assess markets and competitive presence. We want to know about how often you are doing that, whether it's on every project or site, approximately 3/4 of the time, half the time, quarter of the time, or is that something you just don't do very often or at all?
I'm a little worried about the 10% that say never.
Well, I'm sure that'll change after today.
I hope so.
And thanks, I'm getting a bunch of emails pouring in with people's BAO login information also. So I chatted out Helen and my email addresses. So go ahead and email us with your BAO logins, and we're happy to follow up and give you access to those infographics. All right, let me close out that poll. We'll share the results here on your screen. So that's pretty encouraging, right? About 43% on every project or site, they are assessing markets and competition.
Yeah, and that's, you know, a real credit to you that are doing this. You know, one of my aims today was to hopefully show you some new techniques to reinforce some of the old techniques that you have, to maybe show you some of the shortcuts and things we put into the software, and for those that are, you know, doing it less frequently, to show that it's actually incredibly quick and easy to do this. And I really, as you can see, find infographics as a great way of doing that. And coming full circle back to my friend Gary Rolston, he always says, oh, he described me this morning as a colors and pictures person, and that he's a number guy. But for me, the colors and the pictures are really fundamental ways that I can see patterns, right? Numbers are great, but I have to do a lot of interpretation and I have to spend a lot of time on that. With the infographics that I've been creating, the focus I have on answering specific questions, they will tell me yes or no really quickly, and using colors to score these sites in comparison tables, to benchmark locations, really allows me to quickly sieve the wheat from the chaff. So let's close that and do a little bit of admin and then open QA.
Perfect. Let's linger on this slide. I've had a couple requests to go back to this one with the links. So let's stick to this slide while we do some questions. Our Canadian friends are highly represented on this webinar, so I've had a couple questions. One of them, the tapestry reports and index reports are great. Will they be made available to the Canadian market using the Prism 5 segments? And then another one, does BAO cover Canadian markets? Can you speak to that, Helen?
Yeah, so yeah, BAO covers the Canadian markets, and we use Environics as the source of the data in Canada. And the thing about it is that if you have any segmentation system or any data set, you can publish that as your own custom variable and use it in the data, right, in your infographic. So anything that you have from yourself, whether it's segmentation or spend or competitive insight, customer demographics beyond what we have, you can add it in. But I will follow up specifically with you all about how to expand this into Canada, because we know it's a really important thing. So.
All right, thank you. Next question, do I need to make a map public to access it in BAO? And are the infographic templates locked, or can I edit them?
So no, you don't need to make a map public in ArcGIS Online. Any of your maps are accessible as private resources in BAO. So many of the maps that I shared are just mine, right? My trade area analysis for Stater Brothers and Trader Joe's, they're just mine in my different folders. And with respect to the infographics, no, all of the templates that we have, you can copy and paste elements from the different infographics. So everything is open. You can think of them as just a library of widgets and capabilities, and copy and paste between them.
All right, also related to infographics, we have a couple people wanting to know if the templates are available to CCIM users of STDB.
Yeah, if you're a members of STDB, one of the things that I did was share them with Carol and Ben, and they can be reshared out to anybody that is a CCM Such Do Business user. You may want to contact the support line to including Alexis to make sure that you have the right configuration on your account, but all of those know how to get you access.
Let's wrap it up with one more question before we're out of time. Do you plan on any more infographic training webinars? Because the last ones, they've really liked them.
All right. Yeah, so we're planning a last sort of end of year webinar in December. We'll fix that date shortly. But in 2019, one of the things that I'm going to do is start to provide some meetups where we do this. I'm going to be in the New Jersey area at the end of November. If you want to come and visit us at our Mid-Atlantic User Conference, I'm holding a morning session where we're going to do some of this live and in person. Bring your computers, bring your problems. And then in 2019, we're going to hold a number of training courses on infographics.
Awesome. Looking forward to those, Helen. And we are out of time for today. We're at the top of the hour. So thank you all very much for attending today. And a reminder to email us with your BAO login and we will share those infographics with you.
Yeah, and here's those addresses once again. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me. Go get yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, have a lie down. I am certainly planning to do both.
And we will catch up with you all again in December. Bye-bye.
Right, bye.